Cameras okay? Good morning everybody. New South Wales is at a critical stage in relation to the virus. We need to make sure the spread stops. We need to make sure everybody who's in self-isolation stays in self-isolation. We are ramping up our compliance. We're making sure that people are followed up. If they're supposed to be in self-isolation and they're not, there are harsh penalties and we'll enforce that. We have to take this seriously, and if New South Wales citizens follow the health advice, which is if you're self-isolating, stay in self-isolation. That includes direct contacts of people who've been diagnosed with the virus. If you are under those instructions, please follow those instructions. Do not go out into the community. The quicker we stop the spread, the more handle, the more control we'll have over this virus. And as the Chief Medical Officer will update the community this morning, we have had a substantial increase in number of cases again overnight. I don't want to see that number going up as rapidly. We have to maintain the spread, contain the spread, and this is exactly the critical time in New South Wales for that to occur. I also want to thank the New South Wales Police Force for their contribution in relation to containing the spread and making sure people are complying. We know it's a tough time for many in the community, and my heart breaks for those businesses that had to shut their doors. My heart breaks for people who don't have a job anymore, but please be assured that all governments are working hard to provide support to help all of us get through the next few months will be difficult. And I also want to thank our school communities. For many people, they had to change what they were doing or think about what they were doing, and I want to thank our teachers and I want to thank our parents and school communities for the way in which they've responded to the government's direction yesterday. This is a difficult time for us, but I'm confident New South Wales will control as much as we can the spread of this virus, so long as everybody steps up and does what they need to do. But we are at a critical stage, and I can't emphasise that enough. And I'll ask Dr. Kerry Chant to give an update today, and then we'll take some questions.
Thank you, Premier. We have totally 818 total cases of COVID-19. That's an increase of 149 overnight from 8 a.m. We have 174 are locally acquired, where there is a known contact with or an epidemiological link as part of a cluster, and we have 425 that are overseas acquired. And I would like to reinforce the Premier's message. It is essential that anyone who has returned from overseas, since the requirements to self-isolate through the border have been put in place, we urge you to please comply. We are seeing an incredible burden in our recently returned overseas travellers, and it is essential to protect the border community and those that you love to maintain that self-isolation. There have been 6 deaths, and there have currently 13 people in ICU. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Berejiklian, do you accept that it is unacceptable the level of confusion that you've caused over schools?
Oh, look, our direction in schools is very clear, and I'll ask the Minister for Education to also discuss how schools and communities are adapting. Schools stay open. If you need to send your child to school, schools stay open. However, we are recommending at this time that parents keep their children at home, and I said that yesterday and I say that again today. We appreciate what a challenging time this is for everybody, but we know for practical reasons, a third of parents were keeping their kids at home last week. Yesterday that number went up substantially, even before the messaging around what we were recommending. And we also appreciate, and let me be frank, based on health advice, we don't know what the next 5 or 6 weeks will look like. We are entering a period where our schools are about to go into school holidays, and it's appropriate for us to make sure we get the home learning up and ready. This has been a good chance for us, an opportunity for us to make sure that whether it's through web-based tools or whether it's through home learning, that we have the systems in place to support our children, to support our students, given what we might face into the future. Good government means prudent planning. It means making sure you have a no regrets policy, and I have a no regrets policy. I'm incredibly pleased with the decisions we've taken to date. I don't regret any of them because I believe they're in the best interests of our citizens, and I'll continue to make decisions based on the best interests of our citizens because we are in uncertain times, and I want to look back and think that every time we made a decision, it was the right one for our people And I don't care what criticism I get, throw it at me, because I am doing it because I believe it's in the best interest of the citizens of New South Wales. We are a different state to the rest of Australia. We have the most people returned from overseas, we have the highest number of cases, we have the highest concentration, but to give you assurance, we also have the highest rates of testing, and that's what's giving me comfort.
Is there something, Premier, that has prompted this new warning from the two of you today about testing?
Well, yes, because if you look around the world, if you see how the virus is getting out of control around the world, if you see the huge escalation in deaths, many countries did not control the spread at this stage of the virus, right? We can tell from our numbers, and they're going up quite significantly every day, but many countries did not take some of the actions this early on in the process in order to control the spread. And I don't want to be another example of a jurisdiction that didn't do what it needed to do at the right time. And I've got an outstanding Chief Medical Officer, and her advice means everything to me, but so does my ability to make decisions for my citizens. And again, I don't care what criticism I get, I will do what's right for our people.
Should we get clarification on the school issue?
Yeah.
Is it a recommendation or a directive? I'll give you an example. I got a note home from our school principal last night saying, do not send your children to school unless you, parents, are in emergency services and essential services.
Right. Well, we've said schools are open. Schools are open, schools are a safe place, and the health advice is that schools are a safe place. And we know that for some families, they have no option to keep their children at home during this time. I appreciate that. But schools are a safe place, and they're even safer when there's less children there for the teachers, right? So we know that the decision we've taken is the best one for New South Wales for practical reasons. We knew already the level of concern in the community was there because at least a third of parents were choosing.
You said the principal
right, I'll ask,
not to turn up at school unless they're emergency.
Yeah, I will ask.
A lot of confusion.
I will ask the Minister for Education to talk about. Certainly, the communication I've seen has been very clear, and I know both the Secretary and the Minister have met with all our stakeholder communities yesterday, and I'll ask you to explain what you've done.
So, as the Premier very clearly said yesterday, we have asked parents where possible to keep their children at home. It is a recommendation. There have been conversations with our principals from right across the state yesterday. There was a web session that happened with the Secretary of the Department, Mark Scott, and our principals to relay that information back out to parents. As the Premier said, schools remain open for those who need to send their children. That will include essential workers, our frontline staff, those who are keeping the community operating during this time of uncertainty. But we also know that many parents are already choosing to keep their children at home. Our average absentee rate in New South Wales schools usually sits at about 8%. Yesterday, even before the message came from the Premier, we had absentee rates of 41% across New South Wales public schools. So what we need to do as an education system is provide support for families based on their family and personal circumstances, whether their child needs to be at school in the classroom because of their work commitments or whether they are choosing to keep their child at home for health or personal reasons. That's why we're moving to the delivery of remote learning. That's why we're encouraging our school communities to provide that single opportunity for teaching and learning for all students, and that is beginning today.
Do you accept how ridiculously conflicting it is for a parent to get a note that says you can only send your child to school if you're an emergency services essential worker, when you're standing up here saying that's not the case?
So the message is clear. School is open for those who need to attend. We have said to our school principals, you need to communicate to your school families, your parent communities and carers about what they need to do. If they are able to keep their child at home, that was the clear recommendation from the Premier yesterday. We are asking parents, where practical, to keep your children at home with you. No child will be turned away from a school community. We made that clear yesterday, and I would expect that if parents do have concerns, if they have questions with any material that might be coming from their principal or school community, they should speak to their principal about that particular situation.
You said that teachers who are anxious about continuing to go to work, given that the directive is around self-isolation, that they
Sure. So look, part of the reason why we're moving to some of these models are so that we can better implement that social isolation and social distancing that we want to see. We know that we will have fewer students turning up into the classrooms. We are seeing that already from what happened yesterday. I expect our rates of absentee students will rise significantly from today onwards and going in towards the end of the term. So what that means for our teachers is that we have now been able to issue a directive for those who have health concerns, for those who might be pregnant, for those who might have concerns or underlying respiratory conditions such as asthma. They will now be able to work from home. We have said very clearly to our principals, you need to identify staff that are uncomfortable for personal reasons, that have underlying health risks, that they can continue to do that work that they will be providing to their students from home. That is clear. We were able to say that yesterday, and that is something that our teachers' organisations have been asking for. We also know with fewer students in the classroom, we've asked our principals to work through models and rosters of who will be working in the classroom, who will be providing work to students at home. That will have more flexibility than we've had before. We are listening to the concerns of our teachers, particularly around those health and safety issues, and these measures will help to address some of those concerns.
The Principal Council, the Secondary Principal Council says the online learning system simply isn't up and ready, simply isn't adequate, it's not working. What do you say to them?
Yeah, look, I've been speaking to Craig Peterson, the Chair of the Secondary Principals Council. I've been speaking to the primary principals, our teachers, our Catholic and independent sectors. We are ready to roll out this work, and as I said yesterday, we'll be using a range of measures. We will be using online systems where we can, where devices are available, where we have connectivity. We're also using physical packs. I know of schools that are printing up work that is being distributed to students. Many schools sent work home with their students last night. We have 2,200 schools in New South Wales, 2,200 public schools. They are each unique and they are each different, and there will be different ways that we will deliver this education to our students. We'll continue to talk to our peak groups, including our principals' organisations, as this rolls out. I spoke to Craig Peterson, as I said just yesterday. We'll continue talking to them through these issues as things progress.
Minister, how